Week 6 of learning skills. Today our learning goal is going to be to understand the definition of the NESA verb outline and to be able to use the NESA verb outline and write an outline effectively. Your success criteria today is at the end of the lesson you should be able to verbally recall the definition of an outline and the phrases that we use in order to outline something, and you also need to be able to complete an outline yourself. First off, I thought I'd start by answering the question, why are the NESA verbs relevant to my learning? On the NESA website, the reasoning behind having a consistent use of verbs across the state is to help give you, students, cues to answer questions in your learning. They are designed to guide you through answering questions for assessment tasks, projects, and examinations. They should be consistent across all subjects and through years 7 to 12. The NESA verbs help you to develop mastery. If you know what the task requires, it's the first steps to success. The use of the NESA verbs also helps you differentiate in your writing. Some tasks, such as a description, will only require clear, succinct answers. Other questions, such as when you need to evaluate, require a longer response, linking ideas and concepts and requiring you to make a judgment. These are not just helpful for English, but across all disciplines, from food technology to science through to PDHPE. Today we're looking at the NESA verb outline. To outline is to sketch in general terms and to indicate the main features of. You can pause this recording now and you can write down the NESA verb outline, and you can also write down the definition so that you have it there to sketch in general terms and to indicate the main features of. Examples of language that we use to outline. These are some of the phrases that we have developed along with NESA in order to help you to write more effectively. Often students tend to write how they speak, and yet how we write should be different to how we speak. Often when we speak, we're quite colloquial. And often when we write, we need to be much more formal in our responses. So some of the examples of language that we use to outline is to start a sentence by saying, the main points relating to this idea include, in general terms, this is the idea. Most importantly, this is the main feature. The major characteristics or features of this idea is one feature that influences this idea. And mainly or several features include this. I've just provided a quick example of an outline of the novel The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games is a science fiction novel. The major features of the novel are the dystopian setting, the courage and determination of the protagonist Katniss, and the oppressive control the capital has over the other districts. Here you can see that I've highlighted in red one of the phrases that we use to outline. Where would we use an outline? We can use an outline in history, food technology, geography, science. You may be asked to outline a concept that's been taught or a historical period. Many subjects require you to be able to sketch concepts or events or ideas in general terms. Today I also want to introduce you to a new idea, and that is solo taxonomy. This concept is a learning strategy that helps you to understand the NESA verbs more effectively, and in my videos over the coming weeks we will be exploring and unpacking solo taxonomy. Now it sounds like a big concept, so don't get scared. Let me unpack it for you. It just demonstrates, it goes through how much of what we learn is content, but then we also need to link that content to more abstract concepts. The levels of solo help us to unpack what we need to know and how we can demonstrate that when answering. So we have different levels of being able to answer questions. As we first pick up on a few aspects of the content, it's unistructural. Okay, so this idea is unistructural. When we pick up the first few ideas of the content, say in PDHPE or in science, that's a unistructural idea. Then several aspects of the course content need to be discussed, but they are unrelated. That's multi-structural. So often an outline would be considered multi-structural. You need to be able to identify different features. They don't have to relate, but you are outlining in general terms a number of elements of the content that you have studied in a particular subject. The next way of looking at things, and different verbs relate to different elements of the Solow taxonomy, is how we learn how to integrate ideas into a whole. So you'll see here that the symbols that represent multistructural are separate. There's many because there's a number of ideas, but they're separate. But then you can also see in this image here how they start to draw connections and points between all of the different levels. And so that's when relational, we start to learn to integrate ideas and concepts into a whole. So unpacking how different ideas in English are relevant to one another, or unpacking how different concepts in science relate. And finally, we are able to generalize that the whole, as yet untaught applications, we are able to take the content and the concepts and extend. And this is extended abstract. So we can take all the ideas that relate, but then we can extend ourselves by perhaps having a particular point of view or being able to understand and bring in more abstract ideas. Outline is unistructural. So you can see our little symbol here. We need to, when we are outlining, mention a number of different aspects of content, but we don't have to relate them. So outline is a multistructural verb, as it usually means gathering multiple ideas about things. Normally, you do not need to go into an in-depth discussion, nor justify or argue a point. You are just mentioning and outlining a number of ideas. Here I provided an example of an outline question. This was from last year's history exam for Year 10. And so I'll just read the question out first. Outline the background, aims, significance and key developments in the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's struggle for rights and freedoms. In your answer, you should refer to at least one of the following: the 1967 referendum, reconciliation, Mabo decision, and Native Title Act. So if you're given a question like this, you need to state the main points of the background of one of these events, the aim of the event, and the significance of the event to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. You could use one of the phrases such as several features of the 1967 referendum include, and then outline each feature. This question was actually worth a 20-mark question in the Year 10 HISI exam last year. So the number of features that you would have to outline would be quite a lot. However, it is simply asking you to sketch these ideas in general terms, all of the features around the background, the aim, the significance of these events and developments. So you just need to mention the ideas, you do not have to relate them. Some students chose to write about this in dot point form over a page, which for a history question is an acceptable response. I have provided you with an opportunity now to practice what you've learnt, and this question is to be completed as a think, pair, share. So in a moment you might like to pause the video, write down the question, and then write down some of your ideas for the answer. So the question is asking you to outline the issues of human wellbeing with Indigenous communities. This is an issue that you are dealing with at the moment in HISI, and so you should be able to answer this question outlining the different issues of wellbeing within Indigenous communities. So you're going to sketch those in general terms. You might like to write full sentence dot points for your answer here. I've given you a possible example, and that could be the issue of poverty. So if you explain and sketch in general terms the poverty within the Indigenous communities, that would be outlining one of the issues. I'd like you to just pause now. I want you to first write down your ideas, then I want you to stop and share your ideas with a person sitting next to you and discuss it, and then you might like to discuss this as a class and see what you came up with. Some possible answers that you could have included is sketching in general terms some of these issues: poverty, low per capita income within an Indigenous community, the lack of shelter, their issues around clean water and sanitation, the low life expectancy of Indigenous peoples, dietary deficiencies, poor health access, high maternal death rates, and illiteracy. So thanks for joining me today. I hope that this video gives you more of an understanding of how you need to use the NESA verb outline. Make sure that you've got that definition and that you remember that definition, because in the coming weeks there will be daily reviews for you to be practicing your proficiency at being able to unpack and define these NESA verbs so that you can experience success in and across your learning. Thanks.